Imagine waking up in a world where nothing feels familiar. Your memories are fuzzy and the people around you seem just out of reach. Every step forward uncovers strange new truths, and time itself seems to shift in unexpected ways. Well, this is the story of Final Space, where reality is fluid and nothing is as it seems. Ancient beings once built powerful titans to protect different realms, but their peaceful mission was disrupted by a dangerous force bent on destruction. Now, the battle to hold everything together begins. A shadowy force corrupted nearly all the titans, sparing only one, Bolo, the lone survivor. Bolo joined forces with the Arachnites, and together they trapped the entity known as Invictus in a hidden dimension called the Void. There, Invictus remained imprisoned for countless ages. However, Invictus eventually broke free, threatening the universe once again. A heroic figure, John, sacrificed himself to seal Invictus back inside, but in doing so, he accidentally gave birth to a unique being, Mooncake, formed from the energy of the Void itself. Mooncake's escape triggered an imbalance, weakening the very barriers that protected the universe. Now, to prevent chaos, Mooncake must return to the Void or all will be lost. The adventure begins with Gary, John's son, drifting through space, running out of air, and accompanied only by Hugh, an AI in a spacesuit. Gary's luck takes an unexpected turn when he crosses paths with a small green alien, Mooncake. But how did he end up here? What happens next is a flashback that unfolds the whole story. 5 years earlier, Gary's journey began when he met Quinn, an Infinity Guard captain. Instantly smitten, Gary's misguided attempt to win her heart caused a catastrophic explosion, leading to his 5-year sentence aboard the Galaxy 1, a space prison. During his sentence, Gary discovers Mooncake and secretly brings him aboard, hiding him from the AI and prison bots. Meanwhile, a menacing figure known as the Commander is hunting for an alien known as Specimen E351, aka Gary's new friend Mooncake. Before long, bounty hunters track Mooncake to Galaxy 1. Gary, desperate to protect his alien companion, activates the ship's engines to flee, sending them careening near an asteroid field. Amid the chaos, Mooncake unleashes his incredible energy, saving them from a disastrous collision. Back on Galaxy 1, Gary, Mooncake, and Hugh discover a lone bounty hunter named Avocado, who warns Gary that Mooncake is far more dangerous than he realizes. The Lord Commander is relentless in his pursuit, seeking Mooncake's power for his own dark plans. After surviving the attack, the crew repairs the ship, while Gary sends a video message to Quinn introducing his new friends Avocado and Mooncake. He does this every day, not even knowing if she'll ever see it. Meanwhile, on Earth, Quinn discovers the wreckage of an Infinity Guard ship and investigates with her fellow officer Tribor, uncovering a disturbing anomaly in the universe's gravitational constant. As Gary, Avocado, and Mooncake continue their journey, they encounter a scanning device that alerts Turk, another bounty hunter, to Mooncake's location. Turk races to inform the Lord Commander, setting off a dangerous pursuit. Gary and Avocado head to Terracon Prime to stop Turk, where they meet a shady figure named Clarence, who offers them a bizarre disguise to aid their mission. Meanwhile, Quinn continues her investigation and discovers that the disturbance is far more dangerous than anyone realizes. Back on Galaxy 1, an intruder disables all systems, including Hugh. Avocado learns that his son, Little Cato, is imprisoned on Terracon Prime. His attempt to rescue his son goes horribly wrong, and both Avocado and Gary are captured. During their escape, Gary suffers severe injuries, even losing his arm. The intruder is revealed to be Nightfall, an alternate version of Quinn from a different timeline, who implants a chip in Gary's robotic companion, KVN, claiming that KVN will be essential in saving them one day. She reactivates Hugh, who rescues Gary and Avocado just in time. After receiving medical attention, Gary vows to return for Little Cato, now locked in a more secure prison. In his cell, Little Cato receives a mysterious device from an unknown source, while a ruthless figure named Vero pays him a menacing visit. Meanwhile, Galaxy 1 faces an attack from a fleet of heavy incinerator ships, forcing Gary to make a bold move, entering a temporal wormhole and leaping 4 days into the future. With the constant threat of Lord Commander looming, Avocado persuades Gary to bring Mooncake to the planet Yarno for safety. Meanwhile, the Lord Commander visits the Order of the 12, seeking help from a member named Hula. She notices that his powers are killing him, but he retaliates, blinding her and demanding Mooncake's capture. Upon arriving at Yarno, Gary and Avocado are forced into gladiatorial combat by the Order of the 12, while Mooncake engages the Lord Commander in a fierce battle. It becomes clear that Mooncake holds the key to unlocking the Void, the very essence of the universe's survival. As Galaxy 1 arrives for a rescue, Nightfall steps in and eliminates a soldier trying to shoot the ship down. Meanwhile, Quinn's investigation leads her dangerously close to the quantum anomaly. Her superiors send a massive ship to intercept her, but the intense gravity of the anomaly pulls the vessel in, disintegrating everything except Quinn, who barely escapes in a pod. Sending out a distress signal, she is rescued by Galaxy 1, only for Gary to realize that she no longer remembers him or the messages he's been sending her. The Galaxy 1 falls under the remote control of the Infinity Guard, turning its defense robots, the Saints, hostile. Power begins to drain from the reactor, leaving the ship dangerously exposed near a dying star. Eager to prove himself to Quinn, Gary ventures outside to gather energy from the star. Meanwhile, in his prison cell, Little Kato finds a hidden chip tucked beneath his food tray. After the crew locates a working computer, a holographic image of Nightfall appears, warning Mooncake about the disaster he carries within. As Gary gets closer to the star, he flashes back to his father, John Goodspeed, in his final mission, learning that John was studying the same cosmic anomaly as Quinn. Meanwhile, KVN regains control of Hugh with the help of the chip Nightfall gave them, just in time as an Imperium cruiser arrives to capture Quinn. With the heat from the star overwhelming Gary's suit, Quinn considers sacrificing him to complete her mission. But Mooncake intervenes, saving Gary at the last second just as the star goes supernova and Galaxy 1 narrowly escapes destruction while the Imperium cruiser is obliterated. With everyone safe, Little Kato uses the chip he found to send an SOS to the Galaxy 1. The crew now focuses on the growing threat of the quantum disturbance. Quinn hacks into the Infinity Guard network and uncovers critical data about a black hole-like anomaly threatening Earth. In the midst of this, KVN accidentally reveals that the disturbance is caused by plasmic energy from a nearby planet, which is also an Infinity Guard outpost. Meanwhile, Little Kato, still in his prison cell, receives a mysterious message from a woman who helps him plot his escape. On the planet, Gary's attempts to impress Quinn go horribly wrong, leading to an attack from aggressive butterfly-like creatures. The crew escapes by luring the swarm into a spider's web, where they stumble upon a hidden Infinity Guard base, using plasmic energy to feed into the disturbance. Little Kato, now free, sneaks toward the transmitter on Zakron Alpha, dodging the guards in the laser control room. Quinn's attempt to talk down the soldiers fails, and the fight ensues, leading to a confrontation with Superior Stone, who is killed by Gary. Eventually, they redirect the laser beam toward the moon and flee the collapsing base. It turns out that the woman who helped Little Kato escape was the Lord Commander in disguise, using the situation to draw Avocado and Mooncake to Zakron Alpha. Little Kato sends a distress signal to the Galaxy 1, but tensions flare between Quinn and Avocado as they argue whether to save Little Kato or seal the breach. Quinn is tied to a chair to stop her from interfering, and the crew heads toward Sector 11, fully aware they are walking into a trap. Quinn outsmarts KVN, convincing him to set her free, and attempts to hijack a ship to reach the breach. Hugh intervenes and chooses to restore Quinn's fate and Gary by showing her all the unsent messages he recorded over the past 5 years. As Gary and Avocado arrive at the prison, they find it deserted, confirming their suspicions of a setup. When Gary steps away, Avocado encounters his son, now possessed by the Lord Commander, who reveals his dark history as the Lord Commander's right-hand man. Avocado had refused to carry out a terrible act, leading to Little Kato being taken hostage. The Lord Commander forces Little Kato to try and kill his father and begins extracting vital information from Gary's mind about Mooncake's whereabouts. As Galaxy 1 approaches the prison, the Lord Commander activates a bomb strapped to Little Kato's back. In a final act of sacrifice, Avocado shields the others from the explosion, plummeting to his death on Zakron Alpha. In the aftermath, Gary reflects on his time with Avocado and tries to console a grieving Little Kato, who isolates himself in Galaxy 1's vents. With Gary's sentence aboard Galaxy 1 now complete, he agrees to join Little Cato in seeking revenge, despite Quinn's objections. Their mission ends in disaster until they're unexpectedly saved by a mysterious ship that can teleport, piloted by Nightfall, the Quinn from another timeline who's in love with Gary. She reveals her plan to eliminate Mooncake to prevent a grim future where Gary dies at the hands of the Lord Commander. In this alternate future, Mooncake accidentally unleashes ancient titans from the void. Overhearing their conversation, Little Cato decides to use Nightfall's ship, which is also a time machine, to go back and save his father. Meanwhile, Quinn and Gary suit up and follow Nightfall into space, chasing Mooncake into an asteroid field. Little Cato and KVN start exploring Nightfall's ship, but accidentally trigger the self-destruct system. Hugh quickly alerts the crew and they manage to rescue Little Cato and KVN just before the ship is wrecked. Now, Gary and his crew set off on a crucial mission to save Earth from the chaos caused by a tear in space. With the guidance of Nightfall, they come up with a daring plan to travel through a star's core to reach Bolo, the powerful being who may have answers. Inside Bolo's mind, Gary relives a memory of his father, John Goodspeed, during his final mission. Time stops and Gary has a touching conversation with his father about the breach and the sacrifice John made to stop it. John gives Gary vital information on how to close the breach using an antimatter bomb, which has to be activated manually. Back in reality, Mooncake discovers from Bolo that he is made of energy from final space. Witnessing John's sacrifice firsthand strengthens Gary's resolve, reminding the crew just how vital their mission is. United by the grief of losing their fathers, the crew is inspired with new determination to save Earth. When they arrive on Earth, they see the breach causing destruction everywhere. Their ship is pulled underwater, and they land in a devastated New York. With only 6 hours to find the antimatter bomb and close the breach, they quickly get to work. As they venture out, they're confronted by Infinity Guard soldiers and defense robots, sparking an intense battle. KVN shocks everyone by revealing his KVN mech suit and fights alongside the crew, joined by 3 other robots who are also disguised KVN units. But when they reach the chamber where the bomb should be, they find it missing, and Hugh can't retrieve the files because they've been erased. More Infinity Guard soldiers arrive and capture the crew, sentencing Quinn and Gary to execution. In their final moments, they decide to share a drink before their fate, but Tribor unexpectedly shows up and takes out the soldiers. Tribor reveals he's formed a resistance against the Lord Commander and the corrupted Infinity Guard. And with his help, the crew locates the antimatter bomb. They safely leave the planet and head toward the breach, but the Lord Commander deploys his fleet of heavy incinerators, setting up the stage for their final showdown. In the ultimate battle against the Lord Commander, Gary, Quinn, Little Cato, and the rest of the crew use Galaxy 1's core as a weapon to destroy most of the enemy fleet. However, the Lord Commander's ship still survives the attack. Outnumbered and under heavy fire, they press on, determined to reach the breach and save Earth. Mooncake and KVN bravely hold off the remaining enemies, but nevertheless, sacrifices are made. Tribor, KVN, Little Cato, and the entire Galaxy 1 crew fight until the very end. Their efforts lead to Quinn's ultimate decision, sacrificing herself to close the breach, saving Earth from destruction. Afterward, Gary is left floating in space. He encounters the spirit of his father, John Goodspeed, and faces a critical choice: return to his friends or join his father in an unknown realm. And so, we find Gary stranded in space with only 1 minute of oxygen remaining, basically where the show started. However, a series of unexpected events leads to Gary and KVN being rescued by a galactic trash collection ship. However ironic, they're mistaken for junk and left on a trash planet where they meet Clarence, who legally owns Gary. As they try to escape, they are joined by Little Cato, but Clarence's magnetic leg cuffs trap them, enslaving them once more. Meanwhile, the Lord Commander is on the brink of death, and Nightfall shows up ready to finish him off, promising to pursue someone called Invictus next. Back on the junk planet, Clarence offers a deal. If Gary and his friends help him steal a powerful relic known as the Nemerian Cube during a deadly race called the Toro Riata, he'll set them free. Gary hesitantly agrees, and they are given a new ship, the Crimson Light, to compete in the race. Along the way, KVN unexpectedly returns, having rebuilt himself from junkyard scraps. After a series of high-stakes moments, the Crimson Light wins the race and Gary is reunited with his buddy Mooncake. Nightfall breaks the bad news that no one ever returns from Final Space, crushing Gary's hope of finding Quindare. Inside the Nemerian cube, Bolo reveals to Gary that a massive war is on the horizon, and to free him, they need to gather 5 keys. With Nightfall, Clarence and his adopted children, Ash and Fox, the group begins a mission to find the dimensional keys and prepare for the looming conflict. The team starts plotting a way to take back control of the ship from Clarence, but before they can act, a mysterious vessel captures the Crimson Light. To their surprise, the ship belongs to a group of adorable aliens called the Fluffles, led by their chief, Hush Fluffles, who brings them to a place known as the Happy Place, a supposed paradise. Seizing the opportunity, Clarence pretends the ship is his and makes plans to sell it to an unsuspecting buyer. Meanwhile, Hush Fluffles offers the crew a chance to live out their deepest desires in a dream world. Gary is chosen first, finding himself in a dream where he is an action hero who specializes in dance battles. As Gary enjoys his dreams, the rest of the team starts to uncover the dark truth about the Happy Place. It turns out it's a massive power plant that drains energy from people while they remain trapped in their dreams. The team meets a nearly lifeless man who reveals this disturbing reality to them. Meanwhile, inside his dream, Gary's life force is slowly being drained through a cable, and Hush Fluffles, revealing his true identity as Todd Watson, a human who blames Gary for the death of his family on Earth, steps forward. A fight breaks out as the team rushes to save Gary and escape the Happy Place. They manage to get out, but Todd swears vengeance on them. As they continue their journey, Ash reveals a mysterious tattoo on her arm that Hugh identifies as the symbol of one of the dimensional keys. Gary realizes that one of the keys is located on the planet Serapentis, where the people worship a fiery serpent named Wertherant. Ash is hesitant to return to Serapentis due to a painful memory. Years ago, she witnessed her sister being offered as a sacrifice to the fiery serpent. And in her panic, she accidentally unleashed her powers, causing the death of her parents. After wrestling with her fear, Ash makes the brave decision to confront her past and guides the team to Serapentis. Upon reaching the ancient temple, Wertherant emerges and devours them whole. Inside the serpent's body, they discover the dimensional key guarded by a formidable creature, Septim. After a fierce battle, Little Kato retrieves the key, which leads to Wertherant's destruction. Opening a portal in its place, Ash briefly encounters her sister, Harp, but tragically cannot save her. Little Kato and Ash manage to escape, though Clarence swallows the key during a brawl. Back on their ship, the Crimson Light, Ash and Little Kato share an emotional moment reflecting on loss and purpose. Nightfall suggests that Ash's powers could have a much larger role to play in the future. Meanwhile, during a wedding they attend, the groom accidentally falls to his death, leaving a lasting impact on Fox, who struggles with the tragedy. Despite this, the crew presses on, continuing their mission to find the remaining dimensional keys. In the next chapter of their journey, the crew celebrates locating the second key with a spontaneous dance party. However, the festivities are cut short when they encounter a strange space-time distortion filled with dangerous shards of time. Little Kato takes the helm to avoid disaster, but the ship is struck, splitting it in two. Gary is knocked unconscious and pulled into one of the time shards, while the rest of the crew experiences decades passing inside the shard. During this time, the team grows older and the ship begins to fall apart. They assume Gary is gone and build a memorial to honor him. Secretly, Little Kato constructs a distress signal hoping to find help. His efforts break a time shard, summoning a massive titan on the other side. Gary, Ash, and Fox struggle to reconnect with the rest of the team, fighting through the titan's attack with Nightfall's guidance. They manage to defeat the beast, but Little Kato is injured in the process. A rescue signal restores time across both sides, returning the ship to its original state and reverting Little Kato back to his younger self. Though back to normal, Little Kato keeps his inner turmoil hidden. Later, Gary, Tribor, and Little Kato run into David Deventer and his sons, who seek revenge on Gary for the fate of Melanie. David threatens to harm Gary's mother, even though Gary has no idea where she is. Back aboard the Crimson Light, Gary learns his estranged mother, Cheryl, is set to be executed for her crimes on the planet Sorbo. Though Gary holds resentment for his mother's absence, he decides to help anyways. The crew heads to Sorbo and breaks into the high-security prison where Cheryl is held. After a tense escape, Cheryl charms the crew with stories and convinces them to join her in a heist to steal a valuable artifact. After pulling off the heist, Cheryl reveals a hidden dimensional key in the stolen loot. As suspicions about her motives grow, the crew returns to the ship, but Cheryl sneaks off with the key. Gary confronts her, and she confesses that after John's death, she was so heartbroken that she shut herself off from everyone, leaving Gary to fend for himself. She claims that when Gary destroyed their old treehouse, she realized he was ready to move on. Fueled by the pain of abandonment, Gary vows to track her down and hold her accountable, setting up a new chapter in their story. Meanwhile, Tribor leaves the ship to form his own resistance against growing dangers. As for Mooncake, he starts going through strange physical transformations, and soon, a mysterious red light pulls him away into the depths of space, leaving the crew puzzled. Desperate to save him, the team embarks on a dangerous rescue mission, traveling through space by light folding and drop folding. Along the way, they meet Bolo, who reveals that Mooncake has been captured by the Arachnitex, and the only way to free him is by unlocking a dimensional key. Clarence leads them to a group of key holders, eventually bringing them to a locksmith named Mololito. Despite Mololito's attempts, they realize they need someone else to unlock the key. Their quest takes them deep into the Arachnitect realm, where they uncover ancient truths about the universe's history. In a heroic final act, Gary and Mooncake work together to reseal Final Space, preventing Invictus from breaking free. With the seal restored, Mooncake is allowed to remain with the crew under the promise that they will never open Final Space again. Meanwhile, Tribor successfully builds his resistance, and Gary vows to protect Mooncake from any future threats, including Invictus. Sometime later, a mischievous button labeled "Press Here" is pushed, accidentally creating a new version of KVN. Meanwhile, Nightfall and Gary have a chaotic adventure on the ship's bridge, which unintentionally triggers a power outage, leaving each member of the crew stranded in different sections of the ship. Tensions rise between Little Kato and Fox as they argue over personal space in their shared living quarters, resulting in a heated dispute. Meanwhile, the crew faces a new threat as the evil versions of KVN target Clarence, Ash, and the others. They must figure out a way to neutralize these dangerous homicidal duplicates. In the midst of the chaos, Nightfall uses a virtual simulation chamber to relive past moments with her version of Gary, leading to an awkward situation when the simulated Gary becomes more intimate than expected, creating tension with the rest of the crew. Despite these challenges, the team manages to restore power and defeat the evil KVN clones. However, Nightfall is left grappling with the heartbreaking realization that her dream of a perfect ending with Gary might never happen, as his heart remains tied to his own Quinn. The episode concludes with the evil KVN plotting a future attack, setting the stage for upcoming conflicts. Later, the Crimson Light becomes trapped in a time warp, sending Gary, Little Kato, and Ash back to a period when the Lord Commander still ruled Terracon Prime. Seeing this as an opportunity, Gary hatches a plan to steal the Lord Commander's dimensional key, hoping to use it as leverage against his mother. Despite warnings from Sammy, a guardian of the timeline, Gary and Little Kato are determined to change the past. In this timeline, Avocado is still working for the Lord Commander, so the group seeks his help. Avocado assists them in finding the key, but when the alarm goes off, he sacrifices himself to give them time to escape. The team reaches another time portal to return to the present, but they make the difficult decision to leave Gary behind in the past so they can save Avocado. Months pass before they rescue Gary, but when they reunite, they realize that Avocado's memory has been completely erased. Though relieved to have him back, the outcome is bittersweet. Determined to help him recover his lost memories, Ash suggests using a harsh technique from her home planet that involves whipping. As the process begins to restore some of Avocado's memories, they receive a garbled transmission from Quinn, intercepted by a Tribor. Gary believes this may be their chance to find her in Final Space. As Avocado's memory slowly returns, he recalls a crucial piece of information. The Lord Commander discovered how to access Final Space using something called clear water. The crew sets course for Canopus Prime, where they believe the clear water can be found. But upon arriving, they encounter a waterfall-like rift in space. Gary, Avocado, and Little Cato are sucked into the anomaly, and Gary finds himself navigating a strange, uncharted world guided by a mysterious map. Meanwhile, the Crimson Light is approached by a fleet, and Shannon, the leader of the rebellion, boards the ship to request Tribor's assistance. On Canopus Prime, Gary drinks the clear water, leading to a horrifying encounter with Invictus, who possesses Gary and forces him into a brutal battle against his own friends. Just as Avocado is about to defeat Gary, Invictus takes control of Avocado's body and vanishes, leaving the crew in shock. After recovering from his injuries, Gary learns from Mooncake and Nightfall that Little Cato, feeling guilty for shooting his possessed father, has fled the ship. Determined to find Little Cato, Gary and Nightfall track a message from him to a planet called Galang 22. There, Little Cato has joined a group of bounty hunters known as the Burner Tribe. Gary, following a series of bizarre clues from a bar patron, finally locates Little Cato. The reunion is emotional as they confront the Burner Tribe and bring Little Cato back into the fold. Meanwhile, in the Happy Place, Todd captures Cheryl, hoping to extract information about Gary's whereabouts. Cheryl reveals her complicated history as a former spy who fell in love with John Goodspeed, Gary's father. The two form an unlikely alliance, realizing they share a common goal: finding the dimensional keys. In the following episode, Cheryl successfully steals a dimensional key from the ruins of the Lord Commander's fortress, bringing her total to 2 keys, matching the team squad. Meanwhile, Clarence secretly conspires with Cheryl, plotting to steal the keys and divert the crew with a fake lead. The team eventually uncovers Clarence's betrayal. Ash and KVN rush back to the ship to rescue Fox, who has been injured in a confrontation with Clarence. Simultaneously, Nightfall, Gary, and Little Cato pursue Clarence, who undergoes several strange transformations during the chase. Ultimately, Clarence escapes and delivers the stolen keys to Cheryl. Back on the Crimson Light, Gary is devastated by the loss of the dimensional keys and feels like he has failed Quinn once again. Ash and Nightfall offer their support, reassuring him that they will recover the keys. Meanwhile, Cheryl and Todd make their way to Raro, where Cheryl uses the Numerian Cube to strike a deal with another Titan, hoping to bring John Goodspeed back in exchange for the dimensional keys. Cheryl embarks on a mission to locate the 5th key, while the crew aboard the Crimson Light turns to Tribor and his Ragtag Resistance fleet for help. Together, they plan to take on both Todd and Cheryl. Meanwhile, the planet Rogaro is being devoured by a growing black hole, meaning time is running out for everyone involved. When they arrive, they meet the Beforians, the native inhabitants who plan to launch the key into space before their planet meets its end. However, Cheryl's unexpected arrival causes chaos, leading to the accidental extinction of the entire Beforian race. Yeah, it was a pretty bad day for them. Gary confronts his mother, and the two engage in a heated battle. During the fight, Cheryl wounds Nightfall, but KVN, having one of his rare moments of usefulness, manages to retrieve the other 4 keys. Meanwhile, Tribor's resistance successfully takes over the Happy Place on Rogaro. Gary confronts Cheryl about her past mistakes as a mother. Touched by his words, Cheryl breaks down in tears, and Gary decides to bring her back aboard the Crimson Light. They manage to secure the final key just as Rogaro is swallowed by the black hole completely. With the Happy Place destroyed and the keys in hand, the crew narrowly escapes. Now armed with all 5 keys, the team is ready to free Bolo. But a new challenge arises. Should they release Bolo, or is it too dangerous? Gary is unsure about the consequences, but decides to push forward, using the Lightfall to enter inner space. As they arrive, another ship attacks, and Little Cato engages in an intense dogfight, only to discover that the pilot is none other than Avocado, still under the control of Invictus. As they approach inner space, Gary chooses to trust Bolo, but they need Mooncake and a 6th key to complete the process. When Avocado attacks again, Nightfall urges Mooncake to sacrifice her to save the mission, and after a difficult decision, Mooncake agrees. Bolo is freed, but inner space begins to collapse. In a fit of rage, Ash uses her powers to break Invictus's hold on Avocado, who regains control just as inner space crumbles around them. Cheryl, now fully committed to helping Gary, takes control of the Crimson Light and pilots the ship through the chaos as Bolo helps them escape by literally tossing the ship out of the danger. They emerge from the collapsing dimension into the light of a nearby sun. Bolo calls on the Arachnitects to transport them to final space, knowing it's a one-way trip with no return. As the entrance seals behind them, the episode reaches its climax. Gary and Quinn reunite, but their moment is short-lived as Invictus makes a dramatic entrance, signaling the beginning of a new epic chapter. At this point, I tell you to grab some popcorn, if you already haven't, because the next scene is just so visually stunning that it's hard to describe in words. You really should see it for yourself. I mean, just look at this. Inside Final Space, Gary and Quinn fall right into one of Invictus's traps, surrounded by two towering titans. Bolo heroically intervenes to save them, but in the process, the Crimson Light is badly damaged, forcing the crew to abandon the ship and crash land on a mysterious, unfamiliar planet. Now stranded with no way out, their new mission becomes simple: survive. 1 month later, they're ambushed by an army of unsettling dead Gary clones. As if that wasn't weird enough, they're forced to blow up their base and flee. During their escape, a Titan attacks, and Bolo's actions accidentally send them tumbling into a vast underground cavern separating the group. Underground, they encounter a massive dying robot who reveals that those who remain in Final Space are slowly being poisoned, explaining why Quinn's health has been deteriorating, a secret she had been keeping from the team. Ash, out of mercy, ends the robot's suffering. Then, in a lighter moment, Tribor pops an egg that hatches into a new ally, Cuatro Nostro, a Spanish-speaking creature who helps them fend off the pursuing Gary clones. Meanwhile, on the surface, Bolo and Mooncake engage in a fierce battle with a Titan. Bolo is thrown into the planet's depths, while Gary and Quinn, seemingly launched into space, unexpectedly find themselves near Earth. However, they soon discovered this Earth exists within the strange realm of Final Space, raising new questions about their fate. With their group still scattered, KVN escorts Quinn, Gary, and Hugh to an abandoned version of Earth. Things take a strange turn when Gary is abducted and dropped into an underground facility filled with hundreds of KVN units, all run by a superfan KVN named Biscuit. To make matters even more bizarre, this facility belongs to none other than Kevin Van Newton, the creator of all KVNs. Shockingly, Kevin recognizes Quinn even though they've never met before. As Gary and Quinn begin to bond over this bizarre experience, Kevin informs them about a ship they can use to rescue their friends. Upon reaching the ship, Hugh assumes control, revealing that it was Nightfall who had requested Kevin to construct the ship 6 years earlier. It's essential to remember that Final Space is filled with the remnants of dead Garys, but with Nightfall's ultimate sacrifice to save him, there is a possibility she could create a reality where Quinn and Gary exist together. Kevin, departing on his own mission, seeks a bridge that might allow them to escape Final Space. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew stumbles upon the Arachnitects, the last of their species still lingering within Final Space. However, their encounter takes a dangerous turn when the resurrected Lord Commander suddenly appears, demanding Mooncake's location. As Mooncake and Bolo forge a weapon from the core of a star to prepare for their confrontation with the Titan Horus, the Lord Commander, having been revived by Invictus, gains new Titan-like powers. He forges a dark alliance, intending to hunt down Mooncake. The crew is captured and taken aboard the Lord Commander's ship, while Gary and Quinn set out on a desperate rescue mission to save Mooncake. At the same time, Bolo and Mooncake prepare for their own battle against Horus at his heavily fortified fortress. To their surprise, they discover that Biscuit has been covertly following them all along. Flashbacks reveal the tragic manipulation of Avocado by the Lord Commander, who not only saved his life, but coerced him into betraying his own people, even leading to deaths of the King and Queen. As Bolo finally defeats Horus in a fierce duel, Gary and Quinn arrive just in time to rescue their friends. Despite learning of his father's dark past, Little Kato holds firm to the belief in his father's redemption. In a shocking twist, it's revealed that Little Kato is the biological son of the slain king and queen whom Avocado adopted after realizing the depth of his own betrayal. While Kevin works tirelessly to stabilize the portals, Quinn's health worsens, rapidly deteriorating from her prolonged exposure to Final Space. Hugh uncovers a heartbreaking truth. Quinn has only 36 hours left to live. She makes him promise to keep this devastating information a secret. Elsewhere, Tribor and Cuatro stumble upon an ancient underground civilization, while Cheryl sends out a distress signal that prompts Gary, Quinn, and Cheryl to prepare for a rescue operation. In the subterranean world, Tribor leads a rebellion against tyrannical rulers, rallying the support of the oppressed locals. Above ground, Ash faces manipulation attempts from the Lord Commander, but Gary arrives just in time to save her. During the rescue, Gary comes close to death but discovers a hidden laser gun embedded in his robotic arm, which he uses to defeat the Lord Commander once again. However, the Lord Commander begins regenerating and the group fails to save Fox, who is ultimately sacrificed to Invictus. Devastated by the loss of Fox, Ash watches as the Lord Commander's ship looms in the distance, signaling the ongoing danger. As the ship comes under heavy attack, the team initiates a blind lightfall jump, which accidentally brings them into the vicinity of a black hole, revealed to be a gateway to Invictus. As they approach, the gravitational pull grows stronger, and Quinn begins experiencing unsettling visions of her sister, Avery. In an effort to combat the pull of the black hole, Biscuit devises a risky plan to supercharge the ship's lightfold engine. As Quinn reveals the painful truth about her sister's disappearance during a mission, she begins hallucinating Avery outside the ship. Driven by her desperation, Quinn exits the ship and attempts to reach her sister, putting herself in grave danger. As the situation becomes increasingly dire, Ash taps into her mysterious powers and manages to save Quinn just before she is lost to the black hole. However, this act draws Invictus's attention, and Ash makes the bold decision to confront the entity head-on by entering the black hole. With no other options, the crew is forced to leave Ash behind. And the episode ends with Gary embracing Quinn, likely for the last time, as they all come to terms with her inevitable fate. Following Quinn's exposure to the toxic environment of Final Space, Gary learns there is no known cure for her condition. Meanwhile, Tribor and Quattro wage a full-scale war against oppressive forces, and Tribor discovers that he is a legendary figure among his people. Hugh reaches out to Kevin, seeking answers about surviving the deadly effects of Final Space's poisoning. Kevin reveals that a rare element, selenium, has the power to absorb the poisoning's effects. Hugh, determined to save Quinn, sets out to create a selenium implant similar to the one Nightfall once wore. However, obtaining selenium proves to be a formidable challenge, as the element is located on a fast-moving, freezing asteroid. As Ash is drawn further into the black hole, the stakes for the crew continue to rise. Invictus leads Ash to the place where he is imprisoned, claiming to protect her from Gary. He manipulates her, showing a vision of Gary supposedly killing Fox, which she refuses to believe. Meanwhile, the rest of the crew lands on a hazardous comet in search of selenium, but finds themselves trapped underground. Elsewhere, Tribor and Quattro visit a temple where they receive a prophecy that foretells Tribor's crucial role in freeing people from Final Space. The trapped group eventually escapes the comet and delivers the selenium to Hugh, who is ready to perform the procedure that could save Quinn's life. In order for Quinn to survive the operation, she must remain conscious. In a desperate move, Gary merges his own pain receptors with hers, shouldering her suffering to increase her chances of making it through. The procedure succeeds, saving Quinn, but at the same time, Invictus heals Ash's second eye, bestowing her with overwhelming Titan-like powers. Invictus presents Ash with two fates, one that ends all existence and another that condemns Gary and the crew to repeat their endless cycle. With only 3 days left to decide, Ash returns to the ship, leaving the crew stunned by her transformation. Upon her return, Avocado grows suspicious of Ash's sudden change, but their tense reunion is interrupted when the crew learns of Bolo's deteriorating mental state. The ship is abruptly teleported to the Class 9 Nebula, where Bolo, now hostile due to his fractured mind, waits. To heal him, the team ventures into Bolo's mind, where they confront multiple deranged versions of him. During this journey, Ash vanishes, teleported by the last remnants of Bolo's sanity to a place called the Chamber of Doubt. There, she encounters Fox, who urges her to join forces with Invictus, and without realizing she is being manipulated, Ash agrees. The crew eventually reaches the Chamber of Doubt, where Gary plunges in to save Ash, but Invictus alters events to make it appear as though Gary kills Fox in the process. With his goal accomplished, Invictus vanishes, leaving behind the seeds of division. Though Bolo regains his sanity, Ash is consumed by rage, convinced that Gary has murdered her brother. The episode ends with Ash cradling Fox's lifeless body, overwhelmed by grief. In the aftermath, the crew holds a virtual funeral for Fox, but Ash, still unsatisfied, chooses to leave the ship. Kevin informs Gary that the portal to Earth is nearly finished, urging them to hurry. Meanwhile, as the crew updates Tribor on their situation, Ash encounters a sentient blue entity who shares her destructive tendencies. She begins venting her fury by destroying planets, seeking solace in her new bond with the being Evra. During this time, the crew bids a solemn farewell to Fox, releasing his body into space. As Ash's connection with Evra deepens, Avocado confesses to Gary that he was responsible for the deaths of little Cato's parents and adopted him in an attempt to atone for his sins. The conversation escalates into a brawl, but it ultimately serves as a cathartic moment as both characters face their emotional burdens. Meanwhile, Mooncake tracks down Ash, finding her in a state of calm with Evra. After some reflection, Ash decides to return to the ship. Back on the ship, Gary and Avocado share a meaningful exchange, with Gary encouraging Avocado to finally tell little Cato the truth about his past. Together, they vow to make amends for their mistakes. In an emotionally charged moment, Gary and Ash reconcile, and the crew sets their sights on Earth, determined to leave Final Space behind once and for all. Upon landing on Earth, the crew is faced with a planet on the verge of collapse due to its unstable core. Kevin reveals that the portal to Earth must be linked to something on the other side, requiring contact with someone beyond Final Space. Reluctantly, Ash reaches out to Clarence, informing him of Fox's tragic death, and pleading with him to activate the portal. Clarence, moved by the plea, abandons his newfound power and allies with his friend Freysenauer to confront the many enemies he has made over time. As Clarence connects the portal, he is mortally wounded by Todd in a final confrontation. With his dying breath, Clarence activates the bridge, ensuring the crew's escape, though he succumbs in the process. Back in Final Space, the crew prepares to use the portal. However, Quinn realizes that Kevin had designed weapons capable of destroying Titans. Understanding the weight of the situation, Quinn chooses to stay behind and confront the Titans, with the crew standing united in her decision to sacrifice herself for the greater good. On Earth, the crew confronts the Lord Commander, and he reveals his true plan to drill into Earth's core and tap into an immense power source. Avocado decides to pursue him underground, but despite his warnings, Little Cato, Biscuit, and KVN secretly follow him. Biscuit carries a bomb capable of destroying the Lord Commander's ship, which Avocado plans to use. However, Hugh warns them of a Titan incubating at Earth's core, adding a new layer of peril to their mission. At the same time, the weapon created by Kevin to destroy the Titans starts malfunctioning due to magnetic field interference. The crew finds out that the final relay for the system is located in Wisconsin. Bolo arrives to assist Gary and Quinn in reaching the relay. Along the way, they face a horde of Gary clones, but Bolo holds them off while Quinn successfully reactivates the connection. However, more Gary clones attack Kevin and Ash. In a last act of bravery, Kevin seals the entrance, sacrificing himself to ensure the relay is fully activated. Meanwhile, Avocado successfully plants the bomb aboard the Lord Commander's ship. But things quickly spiral out of control as Earth is on the verge of destruction. Just when the final relay is about to connect, the Lord Commander emerges from Earth's core as a Titan, destroying their last chance from within. Earth explodes into pieces, and Lord Commander immediately kills Bolo, leaving the crew devastated as their protector falls. As the Lord Commander faces off against Invictus and his army of Titans for failing to bring him Mooncake, the crew is left to deal with their broken ship. The crew tries to repair the damaged ship after the failure of Kevin's link, but they're attacked by Gary clones who cut off the ship's power, causing Hugh to shut down. The team splits up to fix the ship, and tensions flare between Quinn and Avocado. Avocado blames her for the situation they're in, adding to the stress as they try to fight off the effects of Final Space's poisoning. During this time, Cheryl finds Ash under the control of Invictus and is injured while trying to save her. Ash eventually breaks free from Invictus's hold, and the crew manages to eliminate the remaining Gary clones, except for one. This last Gary clone reveals that in his timeline, he also sacrificed himself to close the breach, which led him and others to end up in Final Space. He shares a heartfelt moment with Quinn, and the crew begins to hope that they can finally break the endless cycle. However, they learn that every time a Gary closed the breach, an Earth was pulled into Final Space, each one harboring a Titan at its core. With this knowledge, the crew continues their search for the bridge to escape Final Space, but the Lord Commander, now in full Titan form, wipes out all the other Titans. The team finally reaches the portal in space, but it's offline. Biscuit comes up with a plan to get it working again. As they work on the portal, Gary realizes that it looks just like the satellites he repaired during his 5-year prison sentence on Galaxy 1, though he never knew what their real purpose was. While the portal charges, Gary and Quinn grow closer. Following Cheryl's advice, Little Cato asks Avocado about his mother. Avocado reveals her name was Apricot and that she died giving birth to him. This leads to a touching moment where Little Cato hugs his father, admiring his strength. However, when the portal reaches full power, it overloads, causing an explosion in the power core, rendering the portal useless. In a moment of regret, Avocado admits to Gary that he had lied to Little Cato about his mother. Ash overhears this and, filled with anger, confronts Avocado. Her rage gets out of control and she threatens to take Little Cato away from Avocado, throwing both him and Gary into space. The crew inside the ship is powerless to stop her. Ash then reveals the full truth to Little Cato, and though reluctant, he leaves with her. The episode ends with the remaining crew determined to save Little Cato from Ash, and in the final episode, Gary and Avocado set off on a rescue mission in a new ship, the Dragon Hog 5, designed by Biscuit. Gary says goodbye to Quinn, leaving Mooncake to help her restart the portal, uncertain if he and Avocado will ever return alive. Hugh accompanies them on their mission. Meanwhile, Cheryl gives Quinn Nightfall's helmet, hinting at the path she may have to take next. A message from Nightfall plays from within the helmet, revealing that there is a hidden power core inside the helmet's eye that can be used to restart the portal. Quinn accepts her new role as the next Nightfall, realizing that every choice, sacrifice, and event has led her to this defining moment. Meanwhile, Ash takes Little Cato to Invictus's prison. Conflicted, Little Cato struggles with his emotions, longing to reunite with his family. Gary and Avocado manage to infiltrate the prison, where Avocado admits to the terrible things he's done. Little Cato questions why Avocado spared him, and Avocado reveals that he wanted to give him a chance at life and raise him as his own son. Back on the ship, Biscuit equips Hugh with a combat suit to help in the upcoming fight against Ash. As Invictus sends a wave of Gary clones to attack, the Lord Commander arrives and wipes them out. Meanwhile, on Galaxy 2, the crew successfully restarts the portal, but they still need someone to activate it from the other side. Inside Invictus's prison, the Lord Commander and Ash clash in an intense battle, while the rest of the team focuses on rescuing Little Cato. Tribor, who had already crossed to the other side, manages to activate the link, but Ash follows and tries to stop the ship from leaving. In an unexpected moment of sacrifice, Mooncake steps in, allowing the group to escape. However, Ash absorbs Mooncake's powers and uses them to fully free Invictus. The Lord Commander, now frozen in ice, is flung away, and the crew's ship lands on the other side, leaving Mooncake behind and possibly destroying the bridge that connects them to final space. As the crew processes everything that's happened, Invictus tears open the fabric of space and crosses to the other side, signaling that the universe's end is near. In countless timelines, Gary had managed to close the breach by sacrificing himself, but none of those versions ever anticipated Invictus's sudden escape. How Gary plans to face this new, unpredictable threat remains a mystery left unresolved. Unfortunately, with the cancellation of the show, we might never get the answers we're looking for, unless someone takes up the challenge to continue the story. But for now, this is where Final Space comes to an end. Nevertheless, an incredible journey. But what do you think? Will the show ever return? And if it does, how would you like the story to go from there? Let us know down in the comments, and as always, thanks for tuning in to Cartoon Mania. We love what we do and appreciate your support over time.